was not meant to happen. This could not happen. This is happening.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to a very special episode of The Coach's Son Parks the Bus. We are honoured and privileged today to have a former Premier League superstar on the episode and England international, Matt Jarvis. Welcome. The Coach's Son Parks the Bus.
Thank you very much. Yeah, pleasure to be here.
My pleasure's all ours. So at the start of the interview, what we'd like to ask you is just like throw to you for a bit of a quick introduction of how life brought you into football and what you went through to get to where you were and what you're currently doing now.
Okay, I'll have to be brief then, shall I? As a kid, I had an older brother, who's just over 2.5 years older than me. So as kids, all we did was play football in the garden. We did loads of other sports. I did football, swimming, athletics, cross country, all the way up to about 14, where I had to sort of make a decision what I wanted to do, and football was always going to be my number one. I was at an academy from about 9 years old to 16. I was at Millwall. 16, I got released, told I wasn't good enough, which at 16 is pretty difficult. I then went on trial at Gillingham, where I saw something. Confidence was low. I saw something. I signed a youth team contract. From 16 to 17, I was then playing in the first team in the Championship at 17. So,
Wow.
1 year's difference. I'm getting told I'm not good enough, and next I'm playing in the Championship. I did 4 years there. I went to Wolves for 5 years, where we got promoted to the Premier League. Did 3 years there, played for England, and then got a club record signing, moved to West Ham, where I did for 4 or 5 years, which was incredible. And then went on loan to Norwich, which then became permanent. So I was there for 3.5 years-ish, 4 years. And then, unfortunately, at my time at Norwich, I suffered with injuries. I had 4 operations in 3 years, and I managed to sort of get myself back eventually. And then I went local. I went on loan to Walsall for 10 games, 11 games, and then I just signed locally in the National League for Woking, and did a year and a half really because of COVID, and it was just for me the enjoyment of getting back and playing football, and all the hard work that I'd done to get myself back fit, just to enjoy it myself. And then since football, I've been doing the media, the punditry, as much as I possibly can. I'm an ambassador at West Ham. I'm doing a CEO, director of football course. I do quite a few other different ambassador works and mentoring, and trying to keep busy as much as possible. And then also play a bit of golf. But I also have a 7 and a 4-year-old, so that also keeps me a bit busy.
Got your hands full. So, yeah.
There you go. We have to talk about a bit of golf later, because James has started to get into it, and then I'm hoping to get into it in the off season a little bit.
Oh,
absolutely.
It's addictive.
You only need one shot, and that keeps you hooked.
Exactly right. Don't worry about the 200 other shots you had. It's just that one shot. That's all you need.
It keeps you coming back.
That's right.
Mate, you touched on the early days just then, that youth career, obviously at Millwall and then in Gillingham. Touch on a little bit in the English academies. How did you find your time there? Did you feel, even at that young age, a little bit of pressure? Obviously, you don't know how long potentially you could be there. You mentioned you got cut. Was there that pressure there as well? And then fast forward in a little bit, with your time there, how did you feel you developed as a player for down later in your career?
Absolutely, there's pressure. I even say, like my 7-year-old son, he was at an academy at 6. And then, he's not there now, but the pressure that's there. And for me, absolutely, I had friends that were in the academy the same with me. And each year, at the end of each season, people were getting cut. And each year it was getting harder and harder to actually, maintain that. And you then, as you were getting slightly older, you started playing. They wanted you to see how you would get on in the older age groups as well, to try and, so I was like 15 playing in the 17s and the under 19s, and it's a different place there. You're not young kids anymore. You're going into older men really, and the dynamics change. Obviously, I wasn't this big, outgoing, spoken, confident kid. So it's the dressing room is a difficult place sometimes when you're a young kid. But it was definitely a learning curve, I think. I think it's a big takeaway point. Yeah, I really enjoyed the younger age groups. I really did. Then obviously once you get to 14, 15, it comes much more workmanlike, I suppose. I was having day release from school, so I was going into training on a Wednesday, training with the older age groups, and you get much more of a feel of what actually goes on in and around the football club, and the intensity, the training, the workload, the gym sessions, the nutrition, everything about it. And to then obviously to be released at 16 was heartbreaking as a 16-year-old kid, to get told you're not good enough and at a club that I was at for such a long time. So that's a hard thing to take. But fast forward into what you say, what did I learn? I think that was my turning point, really, because you sort of work out whether you want to play or you don't. And I had that straight after I got released. It was after a game on a Saturday. We got called into the to one of the offices. I went in with my dad, and it was like short version. There was like 4 coaches, and they were like, yes, no, 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 like 1 yes, 3 no's. And then you come out, and there was a Gillingham scout right outside, and he was like, we've got a game tomorrow. I'd love you to join us, blah, blah, blah. And me, I couldn't do it. I said no. Like I was going home in a car. I was thinking, I just want to go and play with my mates. I'm not enjoying it. But luckily for me, that scout kept on calling me, and 2 weeks later, I eventually went on trial. And as I said, I wasn't particularly great on trial. My confidence had completely gone. But once I got offered the contract, the YTS, something in me just switched, and that was my turning point, really. And all of the build up of everything that had gone in the past, I was then fully focused. I moved out, so I moved away at 16, lived in digs. And you just grow up, and everything revolves around football. So that was my massive learning curve. Of every day was get up, go to training, train, and we had to, because I couldn't drive at that point. Then the youth team manager used to pick us up and drop us back to digs. So we used to have to hang around and wait for him, and so we would just be practicing, just messing around, but always something with the ball. So you're fully involved in football, and that was your life, really. So. I think that was a big wake up call, a big learning curve of everything that had happened the previous 7 years.
Do you think playing with the older age groups at such a young age, like, really helped you, within your career, like, when you did brace that Premier League level or that senior level? Because here in Australia, it is very age regimented. Your 13s, you're playing 13s, your 14s, you're playing 14s. And one big thing that I learned when I went overseas into Europe and I played, I was getting told I was too old as an 18-year-old for the under-20s. And they will then get me in the gym, get me prepped, get me ready as possible for first grade. Do you think that's something that probably us Australians could probably take as a lesson from over in the UK as well as Europe, to say, no, let's get these kids playing with the seniors as quick as possible?
I think there's a fine balance, absolutely. Because as I said, for me, I had the older brother, so I was just used to playing with older kids all the time.
Yeah.
Him and his mates would be playing football, and I would just join in, and you just get used to it. It's the physicality, it's the the power. The people's shots are a lot harder, their tackles a lot harder, they're quicker, everything about it. But it's a mental side. Even I speak to my son now, he doesn't really like playing against the older age groups, because it's a mentality thing. They're bigger, stronger, quicker. I don't want to, but for me, I look at it the completely other way. It's a massive opportunity to learn and to improve, because if they're quicker, stronger, and they've got harder shots, well, how are you going to beat them then? So you've got to work out what you're going to do to actually to get round them, or to be quicker than them, or you've got to work out the ways to improve. You can't win every week, because you don't learn anything. You need to be playing these older kids to learn, well, actually, okay, so he's quicker than me, so how can I get the ball, or how can I get round him? Do I run off to come short? Is my movement got to be better, or have I got to time my run perfectly to get him behind, or something like that? I think it is important to play with the older kids, because but again, as I say, once you get to a certain age, I think, for instance, 7 to 9 is a huge jump. 9 to 11 is a huge jump. I think once you get to like 13, 14, you can start playing with the older age group. I think a lot more, because you're developing, quicker. You're going to be physically stronger, quicker, and I think that being able to handle the pressures of the older kids as well, I think is only going to benefit you.
Yeah, it's a very good point you make, because obviously you're not only having to learn quick on the physical sense, you'll have to learn quicker mentally and emotionally as well, which is a whole different ballgame there. You mentioned obviously pressure that you feel even at a young age. What we want to know is, like, what's the pressure like as a Premier League footballer? If you could fast track to your Premier League times, like, because obviously it's hard to have a difficult, like a normal life. If you're walking down the street, you might just be going for a coffee, going for dinner, just doing your groceries. But everyone you bump into, they're just thinking football, thinking about how you played on the weekend, how you're going to perform in the upcoming fixture. Like, what's that pressure like?
Absolutely. There's so many different variables of pressure. But just using your examples, like if I was playing, for instance, at West Ham, and we played at home and we lost, or I didn't have a great game or something, and I had a dinner out with my wife or friends in the evening in London, I would cancel it, because I didn't want to have that backlash, or that being out and people like, "Oh, you were rubbish today," or "What are you doing out? Why are you doing this?" And I just didn't want to. I just took myself away from that. I mean, looking back now, I think, well, why did I? Don't care what anyone else thinks sort of mentality. But at the time I was in it, you do have that sort of doubt and think, no, I'm just going to take myself out of the equation and out the firing line, really, because it is hard. It is, that pressure of just being with your kids, or just going out for dinner. You're not doing anything wrong, but because you're so just put on this platform, and I think as everyone says, as role models or whatever, you've got to sort of try and stay in this bubble, which is really difficult to do. And everything just gets magnified if you do anything slightly out of what they class as normal. So there is a lot of pressure on that side of things. I mean, as far as pressure goes, I'd much rather play in front of 80,000 people than take my first tee off in front of 10 people. That sort of thing. That sort of thing is miles better. You're drilled, you train, you every single day, molds into one, really, and you get on the football pitch, and my experience, even when I played for England, that first sort of minute or 30 seconds when I'm standing before I get on the pitch, all I'm thinking is, don't look nervous, because that the whole of England was going to be watching me. As soon as you get on the pitch, you're sort of into your comfort blanket and your comfort zone. I just wanted to get a quick, good early first touch, get a touch, and then once you're into the game, you're back to where and all of that other noise, you can't really hear what's going on, and it's just back to a bit of normality for you. But you can only control the controllables. You can't control everything else around you, and that's something that you have to learn quite quickly. And that is a lot of pressure to put on yourself.
Just I wanted to dive into your time at Wolves a little bit. So you came in at the 07-08, and unfortunately you guys just missed out on playoffs that year. But the following year, you guys actually were lucky enough to get promotion, and you had a great year. I wanted to ask what the atmosphere was like playing at a club that was moving into the Premier League. Obviously, from a club's point of view, financially it's amazing, but I wanted to know how it was for the player itself. So you're obviously getting the chance to play against the best, players in the world, comes with, a lot of weight on your shoulders as well that comes with it.
Absolutely. But that last comment you say about the weight in our shoulders, we had none of that, because I think a lot of our players, there was only a couple of players that had played in the Premier League before. The rest of us were, we'd never done it. So the excitement and the optimism and the hard work that we'd done in the previous year to get promoted, by the way, which was incredible. Winning the championship is not easy, and an incredible team. Like we had our 15-year anniversary of getting promoted, like I think it was a couple of months ago. We all met up, and it's like that group is still exactly how it was when we were all playing. Such a tight knit group, so everyone gets on with each other. It was a joy to be there and to do what we did. And I think that when you're then moving into the Premier League, I didn't feel any pressure in the sense of I didn't feel like, oh my God, I'm playing against all of these amazing players. Like, well, how am I going to do? I had the excitement of, wow, I'm playing against, the best right back, the best fullbacks in the world here. I'm going to give it absolutely everything, and I'm going to try and see if I can take him on. And that's how I sort of had that mindset of going into the Premier League, and I had no fear. I think that's huge. Young players have no fear. When you start getting to your 25, 26, that fear sort of that self-doubt comes into play. So we as a team, a lot of youngsters that had not necessarily played in the Premier, we had that no fear, and we could just go out and try and express ourselves as best we possibly could.
You probably felt like you were going back to being a kid, and you're finally outliving that dream that you probably had.
Absolutely, you can't describe that feeling of walking out. As my first sort of big experience when I was playing in the Prem was we played Man City away at the Etihad, and they just signed Robinho. I'm standing in the tunnel walking out, going, like, looking across, like this is ridiculous. Just think this is I'm playing in the Premier League against Robinho. What's going on? Absolute childhood dreams going on, but. Yeah, phenomenal to be a part of.
But Robinho's looking back a year going, it's going to be a big day at the office, this one, for sure.
Jarvis.
He was thinking, God, who's taller out of me and him?
It's a long way to get the distractions out early.
Yeah, absolutely.
So in the 2010-11 season, Wolves did ultimately stay up and survive relegation, had some big wins against likes of City, some big rivals in Birmingham, Villa, Liverpool, Chelsea, United. I'm pretty sure some big wins.
Yep.
Would you rate those wins like at the top of your career, like playing those big teams and getting a win, getting a result? Would they be your best wins you'd say in your career?
Best wins, yeah. I mean, when you look back and you think, I've beaten City, I've beaten Man United, I've beaten Liverpool. Well, I did beat Liverpool in the youth team as well. You just think Chelsea, you think that's incredible. Spurs, you think that is amazing to say that, I've actually beaten these teams. So I've got man of the match. I've got this massive bottle of champagne that I won as the away player at Old Trafford. It's got a big man, and you think that's cool. That's a nice little memorabilia thing, which I've still got. I mean, I haven't drunk the champagne. I can't imagine what it tastes like now. But but it's just them sort of things. You don't take, well, you do sort of take for granted at the time, but it's only when you stop and you look back and you think, wow, that is amazing. That is pretty cool. I can say that them results and beating them players, and as well, you look at the players that were in them teams at the time, phenomenal players. Especially like that United side as well, and you think, wow, that's pretty impressive.
Yeah, I had it written down here. You got to let equaliser against Spurs, but as a Spurs fan, I purposely left that bit out. So.
Okay, well, I won't drop that one in then.
You touched on it a little bit before. I want to jump into the moment of getting the call up for the England squad. That must have been surreal. Do you remember where you were at the time, who you called straight after, how you felt afterwards?
Absolutely. I remember it like it was yesterday. We just played, we were in the early kickoff against Aston Villa away, which we won 1-0, which is the first time Wolves had beaten Villa in, 20, 30 years or something away at Villa Park. I scored the goal. So we won 1-0, I scored. So I drove back home because it was the early kickoff. So then I drove back up the Sunday night. It got into my house, just going to the kitchen, and I got a text message. And I remember looking at it going, it's a bit like weird. It says it's from the FA. It says I've been called up for England. Oh. And I was like, I've said so many people have had sort of like fake messages that are coming up thinking, so someone's on the wind up here. So I sort of didn't really know what to do. And then I got a call about 30 seconds later and saying, look, it's not a wind up. You have been called up for England. You're going to need your
Oh, wow.
passport. You need this, this, and this. You're going to get picked up tomorrow morning. Blah blah blah. And I was just like, wow. They're like,
Wow.
you got about 45 minutes before it gets released on Sky Sports News or whatever it was. And I remember like turning around to my wife and just being like, oh my word, this is incredible. Yeah. And then I was like, I called my mum and dad, I called my mum's mobile. She didn't pick up, called my dad's mobile. He didn't pick up. I'm like, what? Like, they never not pick up. I was like, calling the house phone, nothing. And then, I called my brother, told him, and I was like, have you seen, do you know where mum and dad are? And he was like, oh no. He said, just try the restaurant up the road. So, because they, every now and again they go up there. So I called them. I called the restaurant. It's an Indian restaurant. I called it and I said, are my mum and dad in there? Because I've been in there. And they were like, yeah. I said, could you just put them on the phone? Yeah. So they had a little celebratory drink at the Indian.
That's unreal.
Yeah.
How good is that?
It's probably going to wait to just pass the message on. Like, hey, do you mind just passing the message on when you're delivering the food? Just let them know with a note. Just been caught up in the England squad.
Oh, that's hilarious! What a story!
It was amazing.
That's so good.
It's cool. Yeah.
That's mad.
Oh, that's so good.
You mentioned obviously playing against the likes of Robinho. I want to ask, like, outside from the obvious big names that everyone sees on their TVs and their YouTube compilations from years ago and whatnot, who would you say would be the best player you've played with and also played against?
Okay. I have thought of this. I've been asked this a few times, so I'm going to use the same thing, unfortunately. But it is like I've played against some incredible players, but all of them are different sort of spells in their career. As a Tottenham fan, I played against. I was in the same team as James Maddison for a few years.
Okay.
And he's phenomenal, like phenomenal player. But he was more sort of at the start of his career. And I played, when I was at West Ham, I played with Joe Cole. What an incredible player he's been. But I sort of played with him more towards the end of his career. So the only player that I would say like that I played with was in his peak, and what he done was Dimitri Payet at West Ham. That season when he was at West Ham, he was absolutely phenomenal. His free kicks, his crossing, his dribbling ability, he was fantastic that season. So I will say him just on. He was in his peak in that one season. I would pick him. As far as playing against, I played against the best fullbacks in the world at that particular time. But the one that stands out always is Ashley Cole. I didn't always play on the right hand side, but I only played a couple of times on the right, and I only had to play because I had to play against him to try and stop him going the other way. But he was phenomenal. He was quick. He was so physically, he could go up and down. He was strong. He was an unbelievable defender, and he always had the ball. So they always were going forward. So I had to chase him. So he's probably the best fullback that's ever played in the Premier League, to be fair.
Wow.
A lot of people do say, Ashley Cole's probably the best left back in there, or ever played in the Premier League. So there you go. Heard it from someone firsthand there.
He just I think went into the Hall of Fame this year, Premier League Hall of Fame. I think last week or so. I think it was inducted.
No doubt. There's no one that sort of can get close at the moment, but to him.
Yeah. There you go.
When you made the move over to West Ham, how did you find? Like, obviously, people will say like how different cultures are at clubs and playing styles, whatever it may be. What would you say were the major differences between going from Wolves to West Ham in the clubs?
I think obviously going for a club record signing as well, that magnifies a few things. I think just being in the London club as well, again, magnifies everything. That's not just the club, but it's like even like player responsibilities. Like when we were at Wolves, we had to do press and media and school visits and charity stuff. But what you had to do at West Ham was like more than double, just because it's London, everyone's wanting a piece of the club doing this. So as a player, you had to do so much more. And just everyone's became a West Ham fan. You just walk around, oh yeah, I'm a West Ham fan. Yeah. It's so like crazy how big just being that London club has an effect. And publicity, the media frenzy, the pressure as a player, as I mentioned, also being a club record signing. West Ham's, the fans are a very passionate bunch, that the expectations levels on games, and we done extremely well. My first season we finished 10th. They got promoted by the playoffs, and then I joined that summer. We finished 10th in the first season, which is phenomenal for a club that's just been promoted. So it did come with a lot of pressure, but it was thoroughly enjoyable, and we had such a good group of players, that it was really enjoyable to go in and to train and to be a part of. But it's definitely magnified just even being in London than from the Midlands, from Wolves. That whole environment is very different.
Yeah, I suppose when you've got like the bigger population, more people around, you would mention before, like, going out for dinner and whatnot, it's probably a lot more harder to hide. So we'll stay hidden, after a game of a night time in London than it would be anywhere else.
Yeah, definitely. I think, don't get me wrong, when at Wolves it was, everyone knew, because, Wolves, you were, if you're out in the Midlands, everyone was sort of knew who you were. But when you're in London, it's just, as I say, it's just so much more, I don't know, globally. I think that you get recognised, or everyone's in and around London all the time. So it's just that side of things. And as I mentioned, the other media, the charitable stuff, the other things that you as a club have to do, is just far greater because of that London presence.
Well, you played at some top clubs, but you also played for some top managers, the likes of Mike McCarthy and Sam Allardyce. Do you have a favourite? Was there anyone that maybe in your career that, your performance was unbelievable under?
Yeah.
Or you felt it was at the top?
Yeah, I've had a lot of managers, to be fair. But the one that comes out on top for me all the time is Mick McCarthy. He was brilliant. I loved working with him. He had a really good team around him. Terry Connor was his assistant, who was fantastic for me. He had Tony Daly, who was the fitness coach, who was a England international winger, played on the left, came on his right foot, which is how I sort of played. So he was the fitness coach. So at that period at Wolves, it was so good to be in that team. And Mick, the biggest compliment I can ever give him is he was honest. So if you had a good game, he'll tell you done well. If you had a bad game, he'd tell you had a bad game. And whether that was good or bad, you knew. But also, he didn't. A lot of managers, that in my whole career, you've had you play on a Saturday, or you're coming up to the game on a Saturday and go, look, we've got a game Saturday, we've got a game Tuesday. What I'm going to do is I'm going to put you on the bench on Saturday, but you'll play on Tuesday. And you were like, why? And they go, we're just going to change this, but you'll play on Tuesday. Then the team will win on the Saturday, and then you are on the bench on Tuesday, and you're like, what? He goes, well, I can't change a winning team. But hold on a minute, we won last Saturday, so why is that changed from this Saturday? And whereas Mick would be totally different. He would just go, look. He go, Jarvo, I'm going to put you on the bench tomorrow, but I need you to be ready. I need you to come on and change the game if we need it, and the team's going to need you, and I want you to be ready and at it, and I want you to do this. And you sort of come out, like you had a little argument and said, like, why am I not playing? Blah, 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 blah. But you sort of come out going, yeah, I'm gutted and annoyed, but I'm ready to come on and help the team. That's the way that he was able to change that sort of environment. You weren't coming out going, well, I'm not going to, if I come on, I'm not going to, I should be playing, blah, blah. He would be like, I need you to be ready. I need you to come on and change the game for me. And you sort of, you didn't accept it because you wanted to play, but he just had that ability to keep you on side, but make sure that you were in line. And he had that presence. If you walked into a room, you were all right.
You're all hoping to be the coach's son rather than trying not to be the coach's son.
But I still speak to Mick now. He's a top guy.
No, that's great.
Is he still throwing his seductive looks into the camera? I remember that being shown on Soccer AM probably every week.
It's unbelievable, isn't it? It's unbelievable. But yeah. I mean, he sometimes plays up to it. But the best thing about Mick as well was, like, with the media, they never sort of knew how to take him. So his interviews, like, you just never quite knew what you're going to get with him. And I think he really enjoyed that. So that's something that he used to play on.
That's brilliant. I wanted to ask as well about, you would play a lot of big derby fixtures or the big derbies, whether it's in London or obviously at Wolves. What's the preparation like? Is it different? Obviously being at West Ham facing another London club. Is the preparation leading up to the game a hell of a lot different? Do managers treat it in a different way as well?
I know it's very cliche, but you don't, in the sense that your training's exactly the same. Like, you build up to the game, you work on your shape, or work on theirs. You look at their team, you do all that. But it's not even really the manager and the players. It's the outside. The media's all on it. The fans that message you or turn up at training. It's like, you have to win on Saturday. We got to beat these. We got to beat these. And you can ask them, like, so would you rather us win against, for instance, Spurs and get relegated, or stay up but lose to Spurs? They're like, win against Spurs and get relegated. You're like, it's just crazy. But so that's sort of like, you feel that, and that expectation and the pressure of that game. So as regards to training, nothing really is different to another game. It's just the outside influence and knowing that it means so much to your fans, and the importance of it is, that extra incentive is huge going into the game.
So we sort of had a quick chat before we started recording about Australia and a bit of time, and you're potentially coming down here. I wanted to chat a little bit about your preseason tour that you had with West Ham when you came down here as well. We won't bring up the results because they weren't the best in your favour. But did you enjoy your preseason tour when you came down?
Yeah, I actually came to. I didn't come on that trip with West Ham recently. I actually went to Perth with Wolves one year, which was great. Didn't see much of it, unfortunately. We saw the training pitch, the hotel, and the stadium. I think that was about it. I think I got one afternoon off, and I went down. I thought I'd best go and see some kangaroos and stuff. That was what I did.
Yeah,
but honestly, it's so good to get out and get away. We when I was at Wolves, we went to Perth, and that was great. Actually, I've got some my brother's friends that live over there as well, so I managed to catch up and see them while I was over there. So that was quite nice. I didn't make the tour with West Ham this pre-season because although I did do a couple of the commentary for their pre-season games, which didn't go as well as planned. So yeah, wasn't ideal.
I was going to say, probably not missing too much out in Perth anyway, except for a big cricket ground and a few sharks in the ocean too. So you probably not missing out too much. But I wanted to get maybe a professional player's mentality, because we recently had, being a Spurs fan, when I saw Spurs come play 3 days after they finished the Premier League season, right? And I'll be honest, I felt for the players. So I'm thinking, you're in the spotlight 24/7. You barely get any time off. Those playing in the Copa America and the Euros are only coming up around the corner as well. The last thing you want to do is travel 24 hours when you could probably kick your feet up for a week and relax after a long season in the Premier League. Credit to them. Pretty much the whole squad came out, which is great. But even I'm saying, don't come. It's fine. I get it. Surely, as a player yourself, would you be sitting there thinking, do we have to?
Yes. That unfortunately is contractually you have to go. So lads have got to suck it up and get out there. And I was actually seeing all of the videos of everyone traveling and doing all that. But that's part of your job. That's part of the role that you have to do. You're employed by the club, and you've got to go and do what they've organised when you've got to represent them. And it's an opportunity for you to go and play and to potentially show the manager something if you're in or out of the team. That you can what you can do. But it's one of them games that you're 100% looking at it going, don't get injured, don't get injured, because that ruins your whole summer.
Yeah.
Whether you're off or whether you're in the tournament.
Yeah. I'm more thinking, obviously, depending what the result is of the final Premier League game, I'd be coming off with a hamstring going, stop feeling it. I don't think I could travel. I don't think I could do the 24 hours out to Australia either, guys. I might just stay back in the physio room for next week.
100%. I reckon a few people probably tried that, yeah.
So good. I don't blame him.
So we've run through your career a little bit now, but I do want to touch on in 2021 you decided to hang up the boots. You retired from football. Did you find this decision a little bit hard, and did you find it a little bit hard to sort of acclimatise to everything after football?
Hardest decision I've done, I think. That something you can get the very small little violin out, but it is something that I've been told what to do, where to be, what to bring for 20 years of my life, or 20 odd years of my life. That's the routine. It's getting up, breakfast, training, that whole routine of what to do, and then you wake up one morning and you've got nothing. It is a massive, massive shock. For me, I was at Norwich, so me and my wife had our we had our son, and I was at the time was injured, so I was sort of living on my own for 6 out of 7 days. She and her the same, and then we sort of come up and back as often as we could. But then coming back home, and then when I was playing part-time at Woking, that whole just being actually at home for 7 days out of 7 is a massive culture shock for me, for the family, for everyone. And I think that's a whole thing that you don't really think about at all. You're used to having your own space and doing this and that, and then suddenly you're in with everything. I think that's a big culture shock as well. And just ultimately not doing the thing you've loved doing for 35 years, not being able to play and have that banter at the training ground, the training, the competing. I'm so competitive with anything, that whole thing that's missing. And then obviously the actual playing and that feeling of walking out on the pitch and the roar of the crowd and scoring a goal and winning a game. You can't replace that. So it's a massive, massive shock. It is a huge part of the game that I don't think people know enough about, or the help is there for the players, because it's a really difficult period of your life where everything you've ever known is just sort of gone, and you're sort of rebuilding yourself. You need something. Everyone tells you need something to do. You need to get this and that and that. And luckily I've been able to go into doing like the media and the ambassador stuff, and that's awesome. But it doesn't ever replace the that camaraderie, the competing, the training, the actual games. I think there's a lot of players that are different. Some couldn't wait to retire, and they don't want to get back on, want to get back on a pitch at all. But I loved it. If my ankle wasn't rubbish, I'd still play now for sure. I'd love it.
I'm sure if you come and watch Adam play, I'm sure you have. You're watching him going, watching these boys. What are they doing? I better jump on the pitch too myself. You wouldn't have any regrets jumping on the pitch with us.
I was going to say, if you find yourself down here, you can definitely bring the boots, and we'll give you a couple of minutes towards the end of the game.
Yeah, it sounds good. I'm good. Every now and again, I'll play a game, and then it takes me about a week to recover. But then, it's great while I'm on there, and I love it. But it's one of them at the moment, because when I'm doing all of these, like the commentaries and the ambassador roles, you're not sort of pitch side. You're up in the stands, and it's sort of like a little bit of a less of an urge to play. But when you can go down on pitch side and you're on, next to the pitch or on the pitch, you're like, oh, I miss it so much. That's when you're like, I just want to be on there and play.
Yeah.
So I still try and play every now and again, but body's a bit like, no.
Speak to the golf, just like I have.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I think we've come to the most important time of the interview, which is the big question. Obviously, we mentioned to you before we started recording, and hopefully you've got a few ideas in your mind. But for those listening, it's the coach's son nomination. So, the teacher's pet or the guy who likes to muck around the most and then change whoever it is. But Matt Jarvis, who are you nominating as your coach's son?
Well, this player has been known to be the manager's body double. He's now also a manager himself. I think he's modelled a fair bit of this manager on himself. He's a great lad, absolutely brilliant. I still speak to him now, and he's done so well. would have to say that George Elokobi at Wolves would be my vote. He unfortunately he got injured quite early on in Wolves, but he would definitely be that. I would say he would he'd fill that role very well.
Oh, I love that. There you go. We have to get him on. We have to get him on.
Yeah, I was gonna say,
Absolutely.
get him on to respond.
Well, I'll say left side, strong side. Me and him, left back, left wing,
love
left side, strong
that.
side.
Love that. Love
I'm
that.
trying to reverse a little bit there.
when you were chasing Ashley Cole back to defend, you're
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
Well, Matt,
Very
thank
nice.
you. Thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And, with the time difference and everything. So it's been a pleasure having you on.
Pleasure. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you
Thanks
so much.
for parking the bus with the boys. Guys, we'll be back next week with an episode. Take care, everybody.
This was not meant to happen. This could not happen.